I call to order Lake Havasu City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, April 25th, 2017 at 6 p.m. We'll now have an invocation by Pastor Kay Zimmerman.
Pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you. We thank you for this beautiful city that you gave us. We just thank you, God, that you gave us divine favor, that we received that $2 million. We thank you for it. We thank you that your hand is on this city because you have great plans and great vision, a great destiny for this city. And so we just thank you, Father God, for our amazing leaders. We thank you, Lord, that you give them heavenly downloads, Father, of wisdom to know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So we just thank you for all of that, God. We just ask you to bless this meeting tonight. Just be in the center of it, God. And keep us in your will. And we just thank you in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Council members Mark Nixon,
Here.
Donna McCoy, here. Jenny Koch, here. Cal Sheehy,
Here.
Michelle Lynn, here. David Lane,
Here.
Gordon Grove.
Here.
All right, before we have our initial call to the public, I'd just like to welcome Boy Scout Troop 89 to the audience tonight. I hope you, I assume you're getting a government badge. Is that what this is for, or is it just for grins? Perfect, perfect. I didn't figure it was really for grins, so. I also, and I know the city manager will probably say something later, but also just for those who do not know, we were the $2 million grand prize winner of America's Best Communities last week, so we are thrilled to death. It was a 2.5-year process, but we made it through, and we're very excited to apply the funds. The money won't go to the city exactly. It goes to the Economic Development Group, and then there's a subgroup that Frontier has indicated would be responsible for it, but it'd be going towards city projects. So we're excited about getting all of those accelerated in the next coming months. So with that, I am going to move on to item 5, which is call to the public. We do have one person signed up this evening, but if there are others who wish to comment, we certainly welcome that. For those of you who do not know, call to the public is for citizens who wish to address the city council on any matter under the city's jurisdiction. If you do come up, we'd ask that you state your name, spell your last name for the benefit of the city clerk. Now, on call to the public, we are not able to have a two-way conversation with you under Arizona's open meeting laws, but we can follow up with you at a later date or ask the item to be agendized at a later date. So with that, Mr. Henderson, I believe if you'll press that little red button in front of you. Perfect.
Thank you. Good evening. Last name is Henderson, Henderson. The reason why I come to you tonight, I'm a 20-plus year resident of Lake Havasu City, so I've become concerned recently about the historical district. I was glad to see that we actually placed the bridge and the Island Trail in a historical district. I'm very happy that we won a $2 million grant. That's great for our city. I'm very proud of our city. So when I see something like the Island Trail just continue to degrade and get passed over, we're in our 13th year without refurbishment. That trail has been here for 35 years. I just don't understand why we're getting ready to spend, $3 million on Cypress, $12 million on Sarah Park, and we just spent $1 million on a lot on McCulloch, and yet, our Mark, our maintenance supervisor manager tells us he only gets $100,000 for parking lots and trails and sidewalks. So I think that possibly when we're reviewing, or when the panel, or when the board here is reviewing new CIP projects, that you can seriously consider what's been a jewel of Lake Havasu City. It's the only place in town where you can get a 360-degree view of the lake. So we hold sports events out there. I've seen probably all of this board out there walking, running, riding bikes. So it's a prominent piece of our history, and it's in our historical district. So let's not let that fall to the wayside and get passed over again. I know we've got some really big projects coming up with, 2 to 3 5-year build plans. So possibly some very aggressive bid reviews could find a little room. They're talking about anywhere from 80 to 100,000 to refurbish and get another 20-year trail out there. So in the world of macroeconomics and big bids like that, that could be a difference of lighting or just a different type of lighting, some fencing. I don't see it as a surmountable task that our city can't take to restore what's an important part of our history. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to address the city council at this time? All right, seeing none, we're going to close the call to the public. We're going to move on to item 6, which is our consent agenda. Would any of the council members like to remove any of the items for separate discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Yes.
a motion.
Yes, please.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented, please.
Second.
All right, we do have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 7, which is correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. First up will be for the city clerk to announce vacancies on the Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. There are a number of vacancies on Lake Havasu City Board, committees, and commissions. The following is a listing of those vacancies. Airport Advisory Board, 2 alternate pilot members. Board of Adjustment, 4 regular members, 3 alternate members. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 team member. Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 alternate member. Anyone interested can pick up a packet at City Hall, and they are also available on the city's website.
All right, thank you very much. Item 7.2 is our city manager's report. Mr. Casson.
Mr. Mayor, you stole my thunder earlier, so no, as you mentioned, and in case anybody hasn't heard, last week Lake Havasu City was named the $2 million grand prize winner in America's Best Communities competition. As you mentioned, it's over a 2.5-year process. It involved the entire community at one point or another through 2 town hall meetings, both around 200 participants, a number of committee meetings, and the 5-pillar process was broken down into very workable groups, and we tackled some pretty weighty issues in the community, and that really impressed the America's Best Communities folks. And so I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish here. I think the whole community it should be proud. It is certainly a sense of community pride. And now we'll be calling that ABC team back together to determine how best to allocate those funds into those, ostensibly those 3 primary projects, that being the Downtown Catalyst Project, the Entrepreneur Co-Location Center, and the Eco-Environmental Center at the Havasu Riviera. So we're very excited about using that seed money to get those things kicked off. In the Community Investment Department, Code Enforcement, as of our last meeting, Code Enforcement staff has received 62 new complaints, performed 57 primary inspections, 50 follow-up inspections, sent 7 violation notices, and closed 48 cases. There are currently 59 open cases in code enforcement. And as of the last meeting in building permits, we've issued 245 residential single-family home permits this fiscal year. That's 22 more than the same time period last year. And we issued 9 new commercial building permits this fiscal year, which is 6 fewer than we did in the same time period last year. We performed 3,334 plan reviews this fiscal year. That's 194 more than we did last year at the same period. And performed 10,000, broke the 10,000 mark, 10,408 building inspections this fiscal year. That's 440 more than the same time period last year. Tomorrow, as you know, some members of council and members of councils of both Bullhead and Kingman will be gathering in the city council chambers in Bullhead City for our quarterly Tri-City Council meeting. Some of the topics will be a report from the Northwest Arizona Employee Benefit Trust. ADOT will be there to give us an update. We'll get a legislative update from on transportation funding and from the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. And we've got a very lengthy agenda. That's just to name a few of the many items that are on that agenda. So we're looking forward to that meeting tomorrow with the Tri-City Council. Again, that's at 10 a.m. in the Bullhead City Council chambers on Marina. It's not? Ah, thank you. It's not in the council chambers in Bullhead City. It's at Laughlin Ranch. So thank you, Kelly Williams.
We would have gone to the wrong place.
Yeah. Remind me to talk to my scriptwriter. And if you recall, last year, Mayor Nexon joined other local government chief executives by pledging to take action to help save the monarch butterfly, which populations of the monarch butterfly have declined by 90% in the last 20 years. So last October, Mayor Nexon joined in planting trees for the Tree USA program at Rotary Park, and at the same time, a monarch butterfly habitat was created at Rotary Park at that time. This year, in an effort to continue the city's support for the monarch butterfly population, this Friday, April 28th at 9:30 a.m. at Rotary Community Park, Mayor Nexon, you'll be issuing a proclamation in celebration of National Arbor Day and the dedication of Rotary Community Park being an official monarch butterfly way station in Lake Havasu City. So again, that's this Friday, April 28th at 9:30, Rotary Park. The public is invited to an open house that will be hosted by Lake Havasu City at the Aquatic Center on Monday, May 1st, beginning at 2 p.m. To discuss the Lake Havasu Downtown Design Guidelines project. As you recall, we hired a consultant engineering firm to come in and help us go back and look at RUDAT and the Paris study and incorporate the Vision 2020 plan into an overall design concept for our downtown area, McCulloch Boulevard between Swanson and Mesquite. And that process has been ongoing, and we're ready to begin the public outreach phase of that process, and that begins again Monday, May 1st at 2 p.m. We invite everyone to come to that open house where we'll present what's been discussed so far and receive public input on what they think about the plans that have been crafted thus far in draft format. The next coffee with the mayor and city manager scheduled for a week from this Friday, and it would be Friday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, at the Red Onion, located at 2013 McCulloch Boulevard, at 7:30 a.m., from 7:30 to 9 a.m. And we encourage folks to come in and have some coffee and share their thoughts with us and get a report on what's going on at the city, and also have the opportunity to get their questions answered or to let us know what's on their mind. Special events-wise, the 2017 U.S. Freestyle PWC Championship will be this Saturday, April 29th at Rotary Park on the Thompson Bay side, beginning at 7 a.m. and looks like it'll go all day long. And again on Saturday, a night at the drive-in at Sarah Park Rodeo Grounds is presented by the Chamber Leadership Group. And The annual National Day of Prayer is Thursday, May 4th, outside the police department at 7:30 a.m. And Desert Storm 2017, the street party will take place on Thursday, May 4th on McCulloch Boulevard from Riviera to Acoma, beginning at 11 a.m. and will go on into the evening. The rest of Desert Storm will take place Friday through Saturday, May 5th through the 7th. That will consist of Power in the Park portion of the event. Will take place at State Park Windsor 4 site from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Friday, May 5th is the Poker Run and Parade of Power beginning at 10 a.m. in the Bridgewater Channel. And then on Saturday, May 6th is the Shootout off of Site 6 beginning at 8 a.m. And if you haven't seen the Shootout, you're in for quite a treat. Big fast boats in Lake Havasu. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for the city manager? Just one last thing on the America's Best Communities. I would like to congratulate Statesboro, Georgia, who was the $1 million grand prize winner for their efforts, and Huntington, West Virginia, they were the $3 million grand prize winner. They did a wonderful job, and I congratulate them as well. So it did, as Mr. Castens pointed out, it started with 350 communities, and 3 received awards. So we were thrilled to get the $2 million prize. All right, we're going to move on to public hearings. Item 8.1, adopt resolution number 17-3127, appointing one alternate member to the Lake Havasu City Planning and Zoning Commission. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, the Clerk's Office received one application requesting consideration for appointment as an alternate member to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This appointment is needed to fill an unexpired term of one alternate member vacancy ending June 30th, 2018. Mr. Leo Biasucci's application was provided to you in the packet, and he is also in the audience today to answer any questions.
All right. Mr. Biasucci, where'd you go? There you are. Would you mind just giving us a brief description of why you would like to join the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Thank you guys. Allow me to be here.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. All right. Thank you guys for letting me be here today. I appreciate taking the time to look at my application. Just a quick background. I think I'm one of the rare born and raised here in Lake Havasu. I graduated from Lake Havasu High School in 2000, went to University of Arizona, got my degree in business administration and management, and then I worked for General Electric and Geico before coming back to Havasu and owning my own business as Mojave Traffic School. We work with the Supreme Court and ADOT, providing traffic school to traffic offenders, which I don't know if I've seen many of you guys in there, so
Not me.
that's a good thing.
Yet.
Yet. But it's always a dream, I think, to come back to your hometown. And, I've been lucky enough to see it grow, from the early 80s when I was born to now. It's a completely different city in a good way. And it's such an honor to see that you guys put all that work in to get second place, and it just shows what we've become. And so even 4 years ago when I was speaking with Jim Leeson, who was at one point part of the planning and zoning, he mentioned to me we're working on a project that he thought I'd be a good fit, and the timing just wasn't really right, but now it is. And when I heard that there was a vacancy, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to become an alternate member that really allows me to really step in and kind of learn the ropes and understand what it takes, to maybe at one point become a full member. So I hope that you all can see that I will contribute and, hopefully help Havasu continue its way and maybe become number one at some point. So thank you guys very much.
Any questions for Mr. Biasucci?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, born in the early 80s, he might be over the hill for this.
Yeah.
Right. Alternate, that's why. I got to learn.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Is there I guess I'm supposed to open up the public hearing as well. So would anybody like to comment on this item as part of a public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion.
Please.
I move to adopt resolution number 17-3127, appointing Mr. Leo Biasucci as an alternate member to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term ending June 30th of 2018.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any final discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you for volunteering. You'll be getting a letter from me shortly, and then we'll get you started. So, thank you. Okay, item 8.2, adopt ordinance number 17-1174, approving a request to rezone tract 2194, block 5, lots 1 through 3 from C1 Limited Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District. Stuart.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The three adjacent properties are located just west of Highway 95, a little bit north of Palo Verde, this area of the community. You can see here they're bordered on the east by El Camino Way, on the south and west by alleys, and then there's a wash to the north. You can see some of the uses in the aerial photo. This is the current zoning map. You have C2, primarily C2 PDs along London Bridge Road. You have the C1 areas mostly along El Camino. The general plan land use map has this area as shown as resort related. This talks about the primary uses in resort related are service, commercial, retail, hotels, motels, those kind of things. Secondary uses get into some of the recreational type uses, and the areas are intended to serve and support the tourism-oriented resort industry. That concludes my portion of the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
If you could go back to the map, keep going, one more, I'm sorry, where the subject
Zone?
property. So that third one that's next to the alley, is that where that little old restaurant used to be, the little building or some sort?
That is correct. There is
Okay.
an old building, an existing building on the one lot, and let's go here.
There it
The
is.
two
Yeah.
adjacent lots are vacant. That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Questions from council before I open up the public hearing? No? Okay, well, this is a public hearing. Would anybody like to comment on this item? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
a motion.
please.
But before I do, we did receive some comments from some of the neighbors in that area that they were not in favor of this rezoning. But going down in the area and actually looking at it, it's a perfect use for what they're intending to do, and also obviously complies with the general plan. So with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 17-1174, rezoning tract 2194, block 5, lots 1 to 3, from C1 Limited Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District.
Second.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we are ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-1.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so then we're going to move on to item 8.3. 8.3, adopt ordinance number 17-1175, approving a request to rezone tract 2289, block 6, part of lot 2, APN 114-20-094E, from R4 PD Multifamily Planned Development District to C2 General Commercial District. Mr. Schmeling.
Thank you, Mayor. This particular rezoning is on the south end of town, south of the highway. It's along Sweetwater between Osborne and Oro Grande. It's highlighted here in gray. This is courtesy of Google. If you were standing on Sweetwater, this is the edge of the South Point condominium project, the Phase 1 portion, and this is the property that's in question, that's up for rezoning. Here's the current zoning around the property. You have the C2 properties here. You may remember these. Council rezoned them about a year ago for some storage units. You have the R4 PD, which extends the entire block. You have some R3, R2, R1 in the back. And this is the original PD as it was approved back in the early 90s. The area highlighted in red is the area we're talking about tonight. That was supposed to be a continuation of Phase 1 of the original South Point condominium project. The general plan does designate this area, the future land use map designates this area as commercial. We did receive some letters of objection on this project as well at the Planning Commission meeting. Those individuals were in attendance at the Planning Commission. We haven't received any additional objections since the commission meeting. And that concludes my portion of the presentation.
All right, questions from council? Okay, once again, this is a public hearing. Would anybody like to address City Council on this matter? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mayor?
Yes.
Motion?
Please.
I move to adopt ordinance number 17-1175, rezoning tract 2289, block 6, part of lot 2, APN 114-20-094E from R-4 PD Multifamily Plan Development District to C2 General Commercial District.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any final discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
would it be appropriate if the applicant's in the room to talk over some of the objections that and how they might be mitigated?
Certainly can.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Michael Gordon. I'm the applicant on this project. We're involved in the rezone and potential development of this parcel. We, during the public portion of this process, we did hold an initial public meeting with the neighbors, with primarily the South Point Condominium Owners Association at their complex. We had some good discussions about what was being proposed, what their concerns were. I'll share those with you. After that meeting, we scheduled a follow-up, a second public meeting with the same group of folks, where we presented our general development plan concept, which I'm happy to share with you as well. Their concerns primarily dealt with the fact that this parcel back in the 90s when it was developed, as Stu mentioned, was part of a larger plan development where the intent was to develop more condos on this piece of it. They went so far at the time as to actually plat it as condos, and so there was some infrastructure, primarily electrical service, that feeds the existing complex through this portion of the project because it was set up to feed additional condos. For whatever reason, 20 plus years later, obviously it wasn't feasible for the developer to proceed with additional condos. A number of years ago, the developer came before you and abandoned that portion of the plat. So the parcel we're dealing with is now a free and clear parcel in terms of being abandoned back to one parcel versus the condo plat. But what was left over is some infrastructure that was set up for the existing project that obviously needed to be addressed within whatever the development use is going forward. So we worked through that with Unisource and what would need to happen to reconnect, to address the concerns with existing infrastructure. Some of the concerns, there are a couple of the residents here today, a couple of the concerns involved. Stu, do you mind pulling up the it's an odd shaped parcel of land. There's in essence a rectangular piece adjacent to Osborne and a really funny finger that extends to the south and west behind the existing facility. On the original development plan, there were additional condo buildings proposed there. They have their common space pool amenity right in that vicinity. So the concern from the residents mainly was over that piece of the property. and not wanting to see, commercial development, storage units, whatever the case might be, right there, kind of hanging down on top of them. There is some, the property line jogs in the way the existing owner broke this apart. He got really creative and kind of slicing out exactly what wasn't in use, so it juts in really close to some of the existing facilities. In working with them, that's a tough piece of property to develop anyway. We have to provide stormwater retention, we have to provide open space, we have to do a number of things as part of the proposed development. So we were happy to, in essence, walk away from, it just wasn't feasible to build back in that corner anyway. And so we worked with them on what our plan was and what our fencing would be and the landscaping and the open space to ensure that, we're not encroaching on that concern of theirs. We presented this development plan to them in the second meeting, talked through the coordination of the relocation of utilities, the way their access works, trash, and a few other things. I think at the end of the day, they were happy with the intent that we have to work closely with them to mitigate any of those concerns and to keep the proposed development, kind of a buffer there, if you will, from the proposed development to their existing project. So I believe going forward, we have a good relationship with them and we'll continue to work with them. We intend to move forward with this project. Very similar development to the Sweetwater storage project that was built last year. That's been well received in the community. Same kind of thing. We went through the rezoning. There was a little concern from the neighbors over bringing storage in to that location. At the end of the day, the neighbors are happy with the result and what was built, and we intend to do the same thing here. Any questions I can answer specifically?
Yes. Yeah, thank you for giving that explanation. That the residents' concerns are mitigated reassures me. And the Sweetwater project you did, last time we just had your word to go on, and
Yes.
Now the project's actually been built, and talking to those neighbors, you really did come through for them. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Since some of the neighbors are here, can you just give a nod of the head, you're in agreement, you're okay with what's being proposed? Okay, all right. For those at home, they nodded yes, because we're on TV, so. All right, any additional discussion? I think we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 5-2.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the last public hearing of the night, item 8.4, award bid for fiscal year 2016-17 slurry seal program to Regional Pavement Maintenance of Arizona. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you is the first time you would have seen slurry seal in about 8 or 9 years. We used to slurry seal all of our roadways after we chip sealed them. We had to stop that when funding cuts from the state and our HERF fund reductions of about $2 million a year. This is recognizing that cul-de-sacs present a really serious problem for chip seals. Trash trucks, constant traffic turning around rolls the chips, and so these neighbors typically have to deal with something that a normal straight street or even a curvy street doesn't have to deal with. And so we had the funding available. We thought it was worth trying. We also were interested in seeing what kind of bid costs we would get from a small slurry seal project, and we feel that the $2 a square yard is a reasonable price. We would see maybe $1.75 or $1.50, especially now with oil prices being low, when you were talking about 500,000 square yards or 1 million square yards. So to see this level of inexpensiveness for that, we were very happy to see, and we would recommend we move forward with this, and then we'll analyze how successful this is, and then maybe next year be able to do the same thing for those cul-de-sacs that are done as a part of the chip seal process, and see how that goes. It'll also give us the opportunity to recognize that we can do some little spot repairs. If there's an area that a chip seal or something won't work, and we tie that into doing the slurry seal at the same time. Similar to the gentleman's concerns about the island jogging path, we might be able to next year do a little bit of slurry sealing on that to address some of those areas. But again, it's a tool in our toolbox that we'll have available.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Clark? All right, this is our final public hearing of the evening. Would anybody like to comment to the city council? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
motion?
Yes, please.
I move to award the bid for fiscal year 2016-17 chip seal program to Regional Pavement Maintenance of Arizona.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? I think we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Current events, are there any council committee reports? All right, then we're going to move on to our final call to the public. Would anybody like to address the city council? Seeing none, future meetings, Thursday, April 27th, 2017 at 9:30 a.m. We will have a CIP work session. On May 4th, which is also a Thursday at 9 a.m., we'll have a budget overview work session. And then on May 9th, 2017 at 6 p.m., we will have a regular meeting. Are there any future agenda items from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to put a discussion on the agenda to talk about the land that we purchased downtown that is sometimes referred to as a park. I think it's time we got some sort of idea of what it's actually going to be and give it an identity other than a Springburg-McAndrew Park. I think it's get some input from the public and see what we can do to actually give it its own identity.
Okay, what, are you clear? I don't think she's clear of what you're looking for.
I'm just writing down downtown park
The
design.
what's
guide.
called the Springburg-McAndrew Park, the land we bought that we'd like to see developed into a downtown project. It's currently referred to as Springburg-McAndrew Park. It's not a park. They no longer own the property. No offense to them, but we own the property now. It's not a park, and I think that causes a lot of confusion. So what I'd like to do is get a discussion amongst the council on how we may go about assigning it an actual name or its own identity as to what we're actually going to call it other than Springburg-McAndrew Park.
So a naming discussion for the downtown catalyst project.
That would be great.
Great.
Thank you.
We haven't closed on that property yet, by the way, so we would want to do that first, which could come at any time now. So I just mentioned that for process purposes.
Thank you. And it doesn't have to be tomorrow, just
Okay,
sometime
good.
here in the near future, once we actually close on the property.
Got it.
Any other future agenda items? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Sure. All right, unless there's an objection, we are adjourned.